Hey, beautiful Tuesday, everybody. It's agency training again today. I have a great panel today. I also have Jacob. I don't know if Jacob is here with us already. Oh, you're here. What's up, man?
What's going on? How are you?
Doing well, man. Good to see you again, and really enjoyed your session this morning. Today we have a really great panel, and before I introduce the speakers, I just want to say, like, we're going to discuss a big topic in the agency space, which evolves around the differences between, like, agencies on their nature are serving on labor. We quote per hour. We think about how we pay for labor and how we charge for labor. As a result, when clients they don't come to a marketing agency or a service provider in our space to pay per hour. They come to grow their business. So we're going to cover all the challenges that come with it, how we transition from discussions about labor services to performance/growth services, and everything that is in between. So to our panel speakers today, we have the great, the one and only Mr. Jon Bennion, CEO of All In Advertising. I think the slide is not in my organization. Laura, the founder of Marketing Bound. Jon Bennion, the CEO of All In Advertising, as well as Trevor, the founder. Can you move the the slide? Trevor Longino, the founder and CEO of Crowdtimers. I'm happy to have you all here, and happy Tuesday. How is everybody?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Hey. What's up? Everybody's wearing in black today, huh? What's going on?
Yeah, we called each other.
We secretly coordinated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even grew a mustache just for today. I don't.
I forgot mine.
I know. Sorry.
At least I'm repping Crowdtimers today. Look at that. There you go.
That's nice, man. I love it.
We didn't coordinate.
it's all improvised today for us.
Yeah, sorry. It's all smoke and deceit.
Yes, sir. I want to get to it straight, and I think John and Laura are really on that. Like, I really like your angle when it comes to how to communicate this. So John, you're mostly serving SEO, correct?
Yep, we've got a good mix of SEO and paid clients, but yes.
And for your experience, how do you how clients? I'll ask first when it comes to outbound, if you do have those experiences. How do you communicate SEO on a level of growth and not on a level of labor?
How do you communicate it on growth versus labor? So it's a good question. I remember early in my SEO experience, and this would be like 12 years ago, we did some of the agencies I was with or consulted with, we would sell by the hour. And partially what happens there is that then customers expect some sort of accounting per hour, right? And that's where it can get really, really tricky, because we all know, we've been doing this long enough. Sometimes a project will take 10 minutes, sometimes it'll take 2 hours, and it can be difficult to know on every single one until you dive in or actually working on the project. But as I've sort of progressed and grown different agencies, I've moved away from hourly, especially with SEO. My favorite way to sell SEO, and I hope this answers your question, Ophir, is we sell a monthly retainer, and then we'll give them sort of I give them what I call a roadmap. Now, I'm very clear that this roadmap is what I think they can expect on a monthly basis. Like, here's a general idea of, at this price range, what you can expect in terms of deliverables. Okay. Because I do think it's important for the customer to understand like what they're actually getting in terms of deliverables. We'll talk a little bit about outcomes as well. But when I'm talking about growth with clients, I'll tell you right now, my favorite strategy, and this has been my favorite strategy for 10 years, is to show them competition that's doing it better than they are. If you want to get a customer excited about growth and excited about spending money on your services, then show them a competitor who's doing better than they are. Give them actual, like, here is why I think they're doing better than you, and here's how we've done it and helped somebody get better. And this is what we want to do for you. That's probably my favorite. And that works in an outbound situation, that works in an inbound. But I have been leaning on the competition, using the competition to sell my services for as long as I've been doing this.
I love it, man. I want to follow up on this with you specifically, because to me, one of the biggest challenges in SEO is the fact that I'll not see results fast. And a lot of time as a client, like, my biggest objection would be like, listen, I don't know if is it the right time? Is it making sense for me? And how, like, when you give me a retainer, I'm sure there's a lot of objections, because I've faced them as well, coming to that, okay, I think, can we start slower and scale as we see results? Why is the price so high? So how do you face that? What's your best tactics against it?
Yeah. Okay. So, and you might have to repeat some of that question if I forget some of it, but it's not uncommon to get those sort of objections from somebody when you're chatting about SEO, specifically because it is a longer term thing, right? So there are ways to mitigate it. One, make sure you're chatting with the right person. Okay. So SEO is in my opinion, a fairly bad single channel growth strategy, right? SEO is best paired with friends. It likes friends. It likes paid media as a friend. It likes email as a friend. It likes, branding as a friend, social media as a friend. So SEO works really well when it has friends. And so if that can even be print, because if we see a piece of printed material, and then what do we do if we're actually interested in the service? We still go online, we still Google, boom, SEO has now helped your print media, right? But SEO likes friends. So if I'm chatting with somebody and they're trying to put all of their eggs in this SEO basket for a payout that's going to happen in 6 months to a year, then that's a disqualifying event, right? That's an educational event. And that's something where we're probably going to step back a little bit. Now, they still may have, well, can I start small and grow? And frankly, the answer to that many times is yes, they can. With SEO, I've found that one of my most successful campaigns today is one that I started 2.5 years ago, and they did that exact thing. They started slow, and now they're they spend a significant amount in SEO, but that's okay. Now, too small, you're never going to make headway, right? So you just have to have that open conversation with them. And while the results may not happen fast, you can quantify what will happen fast. So for example, the work that we do will happen fast. Like, we will be producing XYZ and we'll be delivering that. And we'll be updating your website, right? You can, the other thing that with SEO, if you're, halfway talented at it, is that you can start to see improvement. I don't want to say quick, but within a 3-month time frame is pretty reasonable to start to see some keyword ranking improvement. So you can lean into that. We may not have results in terms of like first page sales, leads, but we should be able to show you an improvement in rankings, and we can for sure show you the work that we're doing for you. And you can look at that work and you can see that it's good work. So I think I touched on everything that you asked, Ophir, but did I answer that question? That's my approach with customers when they take it that way. Understanding if they're the right fit, first off, because there's a difference if those objections can pop up really quick early on, and they can tell you very fast that you're not talking to the right person. Okay. So just ask a few more questions and try to figure out if they're the right person or not. If they are the right person and they're still concerned, look, there's a good chance they've had a bad experience. Okay. There's a good chance that they've tried lots of stuff. There's a good chance that deep down they see their competitors doing SEO and everybody else is winning and they just aren't. They're super frustrated with it. And that's why maybe somebody wants to start a little more conservatively. And that actually kind of sounds like an ideal customer. So those objections aren't necessarily bad. Those objections are, I've been hurt. I want to love again, but don't hurt me. So
yeah, basically they're all country music songs.
Yes, it is. SEO is country. Absolutely. There's no doubt.
Amazing, amazing response, Jon. Really appreciate it. And you made a really good point there, actually, in the very beginning. You said SEO has friends, right? And so obviously, when you look at friend groups, some friends are being prioritized over others. So when you're talking about SEO, what are some of the angles that when looking at a prospect or looking at a client that you would want to prioritize over other angles that they're going after?
I mean, it's a good question. I try to find the angle that tells the story that now is a good time for them to invest in SEO because they'll make more money with it. So typically, if their paid strategy is working well, if they have like a Google specifically, a Google paid strategy that's working well, then SEO is almost a slam dunk, right? Because you're just going to get those clicks from the same place. They're just not going to cost you per click, right? And so that friend works really well. That friend works exceptionally well with SEO. Even Facebook advertising or Instagram advertising to some degree, like if they're doing paid ads, then that typically means that SEO is going to work. And the other thing I really look for is if they from a sales perspective, I know there's a good chance that I'm going to close the deal or at least have a really good conversation if I notice that they have at least a lot or some keywords ranking on the second page. Okay. That's one of my biggest indicators that we can be successful with this client is if they have enough stuff that they're on the second, third page of Google, but they just haven't quite cracked the code to get onto that first page, specifically top 3. I'd love to hear Laura and Trevor's take on that question too. But that's kind of what I look at.
I mean, this is great, and again, I love the way you deal with objections by giving the value and the competitors and kind of highlighting your ideal customers on the way. And following up on this, Laura, because I think you're also on the other side of the non-traditional performance channels, right? So it's not a performance, you're doing content. How do you communicate the value in content where you're communicating with prospects?
Okay, so obviously when you meet someone, they either or they don't. And so for me, when I qualifying is like super important when it comes to these things, because the more you qualify, the less objections you will have. And so when I make sure that they're already posting on social media. So I'm not going to someone who never posts on social media and trying to convince them that the future is social media. No, I'm not doing that. If they're not on social media advertising it now, that's fine. That's not my target audience. My target audience are people who are already on social media where I can go in, tweak a few things, do it for them, and get results because already they value social media. So that's always the biggest objection that I have to overcome is like people are like, well, what's the point? Like I do this, I have referrals, my network. I'm not dealing with those people. But that's like the biggest objection that I usually have with people.
So when you're talking about qualifying people, if they're posting to social or not, do you ever take into account the actual quality that they are posting to social? Because I see a lot of brands that are posting to social, but the quality of their content is not very good. Do you take that into an account as well?
Definitely. If I see that I can help them, and usually that's when their content is not as good. So if a brand is killing it, like, hey, I'll do it for you, of course, but I usually lean towards the people who I can go in, show them what they're doing wrong. Like Jacob, if you came to me and you're like, hey, look at my link doing wrong, wrong, I'll completely give you an audit and give you the tools to do it. And usually when people get the tools, they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then they're like, hey, can you do it for me? So I'll give away all the tools, show them that I know what I'm talking about, but I kind of want to make sure that their content isn't like super perfect, because then I can't help them. I want to target people who I can help. If their content is good, I'll just compliment on.
What type of value are you kind of communicating with them outside of, okay, I see that you're posting on social, I see that you're investing in content, and I think this is also to you, Jacob. Like, I see you're investing in content, I see that you have something going, but how do you communicate the value outside of vanity metrics? I will get you more engagement, I'll get you more reach. What kind of value prop you have there?
So that's when you have to start talking about their goals, because sometimes, like, I have one client that just wants awareness, just as much reach as possible. I have another client who wants to be thought leadership, just wants to be known as the expert in the industry. And then I have other clients that want leads. So it's kind of identifying what they want and then focusing on that metric. Sometimes that is awareness, sometimes that's leads. And then adjusting the content around that. That's for me. I don't know about Jacob.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Laura. And back when I was running a video marketing agency, the biggest question, the biggest ask that we'd get out of people is, what are you looking to achieve? And every brand, every company has a story. And if you can tie in some sort of emotion to the content that they're publishing, you're going to be able to figure out which direction they're trying to go in and where you're going to be able to provide the most amount of value. And if you can tie whatever you're pitching to them to an emotional pain point, like, for example, there was a bakery that we were working with. Their biggest thing on the content is that they wanted to tell the story about how they built this up through generations, and the recipes were passed down, and the grandparents were a part of this, and there was this whole legacy behind it. That's something that they want to tell to the world. So that's what they're going to be most attached to. So again, kind of piggybacking off of what Laura said, discovery and figuring out exactly what they're wanting to achieve, because everyone's going to have different goals with content. Figuring that out and then kind of driving your value proposition from there, I think, is going to be the most effective way to do it.
Beautiful. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not selling content. My ticket was always, I sell business. You know what I mean? I'm not selling SEO, I'm not selling content, I'm selling you business. I'm helping you grow your business. And to be honest, nobody I used references like Laura, and like John, and like Jacob, and you can waste your money. Sorry for saying it, but you can waste your money on content and our SEO and our many stuff that might work. I can give you customers tomorrow. And how different is that from a communication standpoint with prospects, Trevor, your experience?
Who are you speaking to then?
Yourself, Trevor. You.
To me, okay.
I know you're a performance marketer yourself, and I'm sure you're using this.
I am. But I do something very different with performance marketing. And what I offer and the way I focus on growth instead of labor is I sell the result. We build $1 million marketing engines, guaranteed. That's the headline of my website, right? That's what I tell people we do. And by both focusing on the outcome, you have a marketing engine, which if you fuel it, will run and make you money. And by offering a guarantee, right? It overcomes many objections. And the other thing I do that I don't think I've ever encountered an agency that does think that this scope does is I don't bill monthly. There's no retainer. There's a project fee. That means they go into this knowing exactly how much it costs, agreeing this is the result they wish to reach. And we set KPIs for what this guarantee is promising them they will achieve. And then away we go. Right. And knowing now that the first month or 2 months of any performance marketing campaign aren't going to work phenomenally well because you're making landing pages and you're testing ad ideas and you're finding the right audience and the right problem and the right offer. By focusing on rapid iteration then as fast as I can, the client, one, is immediately seeing output, but also understands going into this, these first few ad campaigns, because these are all new companies, right? You don't come to a go-to-market expert if you're making 10 million a year. You come to a go-to-market expert if you're making 0 to maybe 50K a month. And then your problem is, how do I make this become more repeatable? And so using that as a growth-centered way to talk about what I do for a client, like I know roughly how many hours of labor it takes to get somebody to all the KPIs that are required, because I've been running my agency for long enough. I know this. I could theoretically sell on that labor, but one, the hourly price I would charge, people would all say no to. Right? If I say, hey, I'm selling my team, their time is $220 an hour, you'd be like, no. But I say, hey, I'm guaranteeing you this result. Here's the figure. And you go, well, I would like that result. I guess I'll pay you. And whatever it takes to achieve that, that's my problem, not theirs.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that approach. I mean, again, me and you are coming from the same place and that mindset. I mean, to me, every time I have a prospect and I can tell them and I can tie them to goals and predefined metrics that we're aiming for, I'm pretty much killing all objections. You know, I don't even go to the labor that is behind it. Yeah. So I think Laura dropped. I don't go to the objections. I don't mind the objections, because the moment I have clear goals that we can aim together, we have a very objective, succeeded or not, or failed.
Yeah.
And at that point, so the judgment of that relationship is being postponed, not to the negotiation period, but to the performance period. You know what I mean? Before, I need to earn their trust. I need to make sure that they trust me, they know what we're doing, or they understand the labor. I need to explain what we're doing. This is the employee that works on that. I need to break it down to this. On the other hand, listen, you want to get to that $200,000 in sales every week? I'll get you there. But the compensation will be higher as well.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Laura, how are you doing?
Sorry about that. I wanted to add something to what you guys are talking about, though, is sometimes where they hear growth, like, oh, you're going to save my business. And that's something that I find a lot of agencies get stuck in, these big promises. And then all these clients are like, oh my gosh, thank goodness, because I was about to go bankrupt. And then they want to work with you because they think, 3 social media posts per week is going to get them, is going to save their business, when in reality, there's probably a market product fit, or maybe there's something wrong with their service. There's something fundamentally wrong with the business. And so I just wanted to add that in, is for people who are listening, who have an agency, don't get stuck working with people who are relying on you to save their business.
I would note, every client of Crowd Tamers, right, we're a go-to-market agency. They're a turnaround. No one comes to me when things are working well. That said, there are definitely qualifiers in place too, right? If you've got 3 months of runway left, I'm sorry, bro, you're on your own, right? If you've got 6 months of runway left, you are probably still on your own. Start to have 9 months, a year, 18 months. Now I'm comfortable that I can build the right thing. And then, not infrequently for my clients who I work with, is once the go-to-market is cracked, then they can get investment. So they're able to then raise 2, 5, 12, whatever $1 million rounds, because they've shown, look, if I put in $1,000, I'll get back 5,000. And then an investor goes, cool, this is what I'd like to see. But I agree. If somebody comes in, save my business, I've got nothing in the tank. I mean, I was a sucker. I did that once. Client stiffed me for $8,000. Right?
But you see, sometimes I feel like there are red flags, because they never come to you and they're like, I need help. It's more like, oh, you're gonna save my business? Perfect. And then it's like, for anyone who's wondering, are those who ask for discounts? Oh, can I have it for like half off? And that's when you have to start thinking, like, I'm not that expensive. I'm like, if your business was doing well, that shouldn't have been a problem. So it's really paying attention to those red flags, because they're not going to come out and say, I need help. My business is dying. They're never going to say that.
To be fair, the one guy who suckered me and who did stiff me for $8,000 did tell me his business was dying. He just told me he had 4 months left and he had 1. And I'm like, well, like,
the guy that did it to me did not.
45 days.
I mean, for me, if a business more often than not, like you said, they will come if you're not when they're doing great, right? They will at least want you to audit something that they're not sure about. Right? This is at least what I've experienced. But I think so. Resurrection. I'm not doing that. I'm not here to resurrect anyone. I'm not here to save anyone. I'm here to help facilitate brands that can grow with my help. Right. This is kind of the prospecting side of things. Um, I do think though that yes, when a brand look at you and think like you're their savior, this is not a good spot to be in unless it's really a good fit. And I've had that experience, when you see a brand investing in the wrong places, not knowing where to push, and with just the fine tuning, a little bit of hard work, you can make it. So I can't put a rule of thumb here. I can only say that bottom line, when the result is really clear to the prospect, the result they're getting outside of the labor portion, I think it just puts both parties in a better mindset together. They're aligned towards those goals rather than, okay, check my labor, check my deliverables, which is just a different approach and a different relationship. And I'm curious because I have clients, Laura, who can not speak to me for the whole month. I'll send them a screenshot of the dashboard of the results. Beautiful, and they will send a check in return. I'm sure your experience is a little different, so just to hear about it if you can.
Yeah.
So hold on. Oh, sorry. Before we dive into that, I want to say just two quick things about what we've discussed. So one, I think this gives a lot of, as a brand new agency owner, because I hope that some of you listening to this are in that boat, and it's probably all nice to hear that eventually you can get to a point where you can turn down clients, because eventually you can. But there's two things I want to encourage you to do. One, build out some sort of outbound partner lead acquisition process, because one of the nice things about an outbound process is that you are identifying and targeting your ideal customers, and they will have a lot less red flags if you're doing it right versus the people that are coming to you saying, I need help desperately because something is horribly wrong. An outbound system allows you to target people that are doing well, that you just feel a high degree of confidence that you can help them to do better. Okay. But I think, especially in the early days of our agencies, I'm guessing that all of you have been in a situation where maybe a potential prospect or client did display a few red flags, but you're brand new. And so I won't tell you that I didn't take on some of those clients. And I also won't say that I regret it. I mean, there's maybe one, maybe two that in the history, did I make money on all of them? Absolutely not. Do I regret some of them? I really don't think so. Did I have to work harder for some of them than I might have if I had set better expectations? Yeah, but I just want you guys to remember that this is to the audience, not the speakers, that it's okay to take on a client that maybe doesn't perfectly fit into your wheelhouse when you're new. Okay. Because those clients are going to push you. You're going to learn a lot. You will learn what you want to work with, what you want to tolerate, and what you don't really quickly. And again, I just encourage you to move to some sort of outbound or partner central like lead model so that you can, as quickly as possible, move away from the ones that you don't want to work with, because they can be very draining, right? And there is such a thing as bad revenue. And while it's hard to say no, I can also think of a few times where I did end up making that decision and saying no, and I'm pretty sure it worked out really well for me. So I know it's tough though, especially when you're looking at the first couple of months. But stick with your gut, chat with other people, reach out to some of the other agency folks who've been around the block. I'm sure that all of us are willing to help. But anyhow, I just wanted to throw those two comments in. So sorry, Laura, go ahead.
No, those are great points. Saying no is a great way to grow, because then you're focused and you don't have people distracting you that aren't really your target audience. But yeah, going back to Ophir's question, I actually have the client that I don't need to talk to, and then the client that is always emailing me. And looking back, that's totally my fault. So guys, learn from this. But looking back, it's because for the people who are emailing me more often, those are the people that I didn't set clear expectations with at the beginning of the partnership. And obviously, I will never make that mistake again. But that's a big difference is like you set those expectations. You say, hey, if you need me, you know, I'm not going to talk. And establishing that from the beginning and getting them comfortable with that, it's possible because I have clients that never talk to me. And then I have clients who always talk to me. So I think just setting expectations makes that difference.
I do also think different types of business owners want different types of engagement. I have two guys who we only communicate through, one's through WhatsApp and one's through Slack. That's all. Like, we don't do calls. And I have 4 or 5 other clients with a weekly call. We talk every week. In either case, right, I prep my slide deck about what we did in the last week. Well, my team preps it, and then we share it over with them. But some people just want to spend the 5 minutes to read through the deck and be great. I understand it. Some folks want 30 minutes or 45 minutes to talk and make sure that they understand what's going on and have some feeling of they're getting direct input. So I would not say either client is better than the other. Like John, I have definitely had bad revenue once or twice. I remember one client who paid me $2,000 who I was stuck talking to for 7 months on a weekly call. And that was that's a mistake. Not $2,000 a month, $2,000 flat fee for a project.
Yeah.
I was the sucker and that guy got me good. Yeah. So there's like, don't do that. But accepting that you have different types of clients you have to work with, I do think there is either you price it into your model by default, or you just say for this type of client, maybe I will bill more. Being able to say, hey, whether it's a weekly call or just a weekly report that goes your way, I'm flexible. I think can really help you with acquiring both types of person.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, though, that you were talking about talking to the clients on all different platforms, because I made it a point to like not get my clients' WhatsApp numbers and stuff. I'm like, no, we're going to do it by email, because then it's crazy. Then they're messaging you like everywhere. So I find it interesting that you have like a few channels.
So I do have, I've tried it all on Slack, but some people don't use Slack. And I refuse to use Teams because it's cancer. So
because it's Teams, it's the worst.
Because Teams,
it's
like a way worse version of Slack.
Once. It's like a tremendously inferior version of Slack, where they took every feature that made Slack good and went, what if we just made it crap instead? But for people who don't use Slack, I'm like, I mean, WhatsApp is fine. I don't mind answering these questions at random hours. My team is global anyway, so I'm fielding questions at 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. both from clients and from team members. If I can just take out my phone and answer a question very quickly, not that big a deal. My wife does hate it, though, so you may have a point.
It's not that it's good or bad. It's just I think it's interesting because every agent who really has a different way of communicating with their clients. Like, there's no right way. You guys are, calling them on the phone, like that's probably fine. There's no really right way of, as long as you're communicating with them and they're happy with the communication, that's really all that matters.
Yeah. One of my buddies who runs an agency has a company in the construction space he works with. The guy's owned the company for 17 years, and the dude he quoted like a mid 5-figure price to work with this guy. And the guy's like, cool, is that just an audit or is that for you to build some stuff for me too? And he's like, no, that's the whole package. Right? But in like a 45-minute phone call, right? Phone call, like the Zone Age. Talk to the guy, got him on board, closed the deal, and then sent off the contract, right? Like the guy was probably 55, 60 something, right? Owning a construction business for a long time. If you get that type of client, the type who says, I just want to pay you a bunch of money and you fix my problems, like, amen, right? Go with that one if you can.
Those are unicorns, and we all love them. They are rare, but as a salesperson, there's a piece of me that just Jacob, you'll appreciate this. You probably all will, but I think, man, one of the saddest moments in the sales rep's life is when you present the price and you've built up that anxiety inside, and you're sharing it, and their response back is, "Oh, I thought it'd be way more. This is great. How do we get started?" And it's like, damn it.
It's always like, damn it.
It's like, I mean, this was the weekly price. Weekly. Oh, is that say monthly? No, just kidding. I'd never do that to a client, but I think we've all been there, and that's great. We celebrate. That's a close, but missed opportunities. Maybe 1 or 2 more discovery questions beforehand might have helped to alleviate that. But I have. It's fascinating to hear the different takes on communication. I don't think it's different. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. We all love the client that maybe is not high maintenance or doesn't need a lot of communication. At the same time, one of my biggest issues in some of the past companies that I've been involved with as we scale them is that client communication just suffers when you're in growth and scale mode, in my experience. And that was something I never wanted to have here at all in advertising. And plus, I think client communication. So, and maybe it's just the phase. I don't actually do a lot of the client chatting anymore. I've got my team, the account managers, they do most of the, so that's my first piece of advice. If you're having a hard time doing all the client stuff, then get a team and have them do it. Segment roles. I'm a big fan of that. But one thing we've instituted here is that we actually do a lot of communication. We with some of our clients, we do have a Slack channel that's dedicated for that client where they can chat in, where everybody who's involved on the account is in that channel, and so it actually facilitates a really fast response time because it's not one person that's waiting on the message, just like 5 of us, right? We can dive in and answer it. So I do like Slack, but we only reserve that for some of the larger ones. That's not like every client gets it. But pretty much all of our clients get at least a phone call every other week. And some of the smaller ones maybe once a month. But that was something I was actually really insistent on as we were trying to come up with like a growth and a scale model, because I think one of the best things you can do to reduce your churn is to just talk with your clients often. Because here's the thing, because I'm chatting with my clients every 2 weeks, there's no time for a concern to become like this deep seated like objection or concern, because we talk so often that the moment it's basically even a thought in their mind, they're communicating it to us, and it hasn't been 30 days of something that's been bugging them. It's at most been 13, and more likely like 3. And so I genuinely think that customer communication is one of, if you're in a place where because I'm guessing 90% of your biggest problem right now is not churn and is not revenue, it's new clients, new customer acquisition. But eventually, if you nail that piece, then your biggest problem will be churn. And one of the best things, in my experience, to solve churn is to have more frequent communication. But it's interesting to hear the different takes here, because it is very different, and it's different per agency. It's different per customer engagement. It's different per group. And I think I think it was you, Laura, who said it best, or Trevor. I can't remember who said it, but just set the expectation and don't break it on your part. Exceed whatever the engagement is, and you'll keep customers for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
One other way to keep people in the loop. Oh, I'm sorry, Jacob. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Trevor. You got it.
One other thing to keep people in the loop, if you want to work on particularly async comms, like I share a task dashboard with every client. I use Notion. I know a couple of agency coaches who think I'm an insane person that I use Notion for task management and all work delivery, but I like it. Anyhow, every client gets access to their dashboard, everything that we're working on for them right now. And they can anytime go look and see the state of every task we're working on and who it's assigned to. And so they can talk to us in Slack. If they see something is marked as done, of course, we'll ping them in Slack. They can also see, oh, hey, this was assigned to Jessica or Rameshwar. Cool, I'm going to go reach out to them in Slack and say, hey, I liked it, but can you change this thing? And by pushing a lot of the comms into this kind of async, everything you need to know sits here, although you don't have to engage if you don't want. I find a client can self-select their level of engagement they want to have for communication. They can check daily. They can check once a week. They can check once a month, whatever feels right for them.
Yeah, especially when some clients get busy and they just don't want to bother. And then some clients are like, ooh, like I'm really into it this month. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And I want to go back a little bit to the point that Jon was making, or really everyone was, with communication is, I think it's really important when people scale is that they fail to have a way to document all this communication, especially if it's in different channels. And it's so important to adopt a system like a CRM where you can keep track of all this communication, right? And I'm gonna double down on Jon's point about when you're scaling and when you're growing, there's going to be a point where your recurring revenue is going to outweigh what you're bringing in almost always. And it usually flips at some point in time in your company, whether your recurring revenue is going to flip and be less or more or whatever it is. And when I was working with a company where we were doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year in annual recurring revenue, there was a time where it flipped. And when it flipped, when new business actually started coming in less and recurring revenue was actually outweighing everything, there was something that was interesting. Retention numbers were dropping. And the one thing that I noticed on every single account that we looked at where we lost was poor communication. And I could see back going into Salesforce, I could go back a year and I could see, okay, we hit them in January, February, we hit them twice in March, April. But from April all the way to August, we never spoke with them. And so if we're not speaking with them for 2-3 months and we're not, communicating to them, we're sending them automated emails. It's not personalized. There's something there that doesn't make them feel like a valued client anymore. They just kind of feel like a number. They are going to start looking at other places. They are going to start looking at other competitors. And so being able to go back and look at that and study and examine what's going on and what's causing churn at any point in time with your process is really, really, really important.
So I want to add to this because I think, so for me, obviously my approach with big clients is different with small clients, right? Like I have clients where I speak with them every day. And if they will send me a regular mail, I will respond in a regular mail. I'll respond in whatever, and I'll communicate in whatever platform because they pay the bills. Bottom line, every agency have that 1 to 3 clients that are kind of keeping the lights on. I will say though that it's like with kids, they want attention. It's really simple. And I've seen so many times that results are less important than how much they think you care. How much they think you're on top of your stuff, because they can live with 2 poor months. I've seen all my clients have been through poor 1 or 2 or 3 months. But once they know, oh, he's on top of it, I trust him. He knows what's going on. He's okay, because they're doing a lot of actions as well. Every business owner, they have their own team, they have their own processes, their own stuff. So it's about attribution, right? They can see growth. If you're not speaking with them for 3 months, they're saying, oh, this guy that we just brought in, look at the difference. They don't necessarily understand. Now, on the communication piece, I'm just saying, I'm jealous of people who have the privilege of communicating with tasks on Notion or communicating in Slack with their clients, because I've been in the beauty space for the last 5 years. If you're expecting a read and response, this is a lot, okay? I'm used to being on the phone and getting screenshots from the phone. You're gonna take a picture of the website from the phone, not a screenshot scrolling the website on the phone, but like on the computer, on the phone, and send to me with the text they want to change. Like the hardest you can think of. But again, the client is always right. So for me, I will live with that. I'm not going to educate them to work on Slack. I'm just whatever. And yeah, this is why account management and communication is the most expensive side of the business, in my opinion. More than fulfilling, more than content, more than anything else, is the engagement with the prospect.
I've got, no joke, guys. You ready for this? I have a client. We've had to tweak and adjust and fix this Google Sheet so many times to accommodate this request, which is he wants to print it. We have this beautiful data, Looker Studio dashboard that's just, it's live too. Updates in real time. Nope. He wants it. He wants an email at a very specific time every week with us saying your live, always updated dashboard is now updated. And he just wants to be able to click it and then hit print. So we had to make, and look, that did not come up in discovery. Okay. That did not come up when we were setting expectations, but that's just one of the, going back and forth and him showing us on a screen share what it looked like when he was printing, and then us trying to figure out how to tweak this so it would actually print right was I feel your pain for when you said that you have some clients where it's like a little old school. it's an interesting. It was an interesting challenge, but
That's
figured it out.
extraordinary. I hope that they pay enough to be worth the bother.
They do. That pays me a lot. This is totally.
They
worth it.
normally pay a lot because they don't understand what you do, and B, the chances of churn are very small because the amount of trust there is so high. You know, they don't even log into their platforms. You know what I mean? They don't know what's
the
going
fact
on.
that I went out of my way to not only I guys remember I email him and compile this report once a week. It's done in real time all the time. And I worked hard enough to make it so that it's printable. I don't know if I'll ever lose this client. Like, I guarantee you, I don't think most people would have done that. But anyhow.
The best part is that now you're a person who wants to print the Google sheet.
Yes. Yeah.
You're ready for every insane person now, John.
You're ready.
I know.
You don't have to discover it anymore. Now it's just ready.
Wow.
I'm
I also
prepared.
feel like back to Ophir's point, when like they care about if you're on top of it and whether or not you're going to churn, even if you're maybe not getting ROI. The way that I see it is very similar to that, but it's also they compare, I don't know, bigger agencies than I do, but they compare you to if they had to have a person in-house. So for me, they're technically replacing a social media manager, a social media coordinator. And so they're comparing what I'm doing to a person that they would have to manage. I don't know if that's the same thing for you guys. Also how I think about my price sometimes, depending on like a few factors, but that's also how I position it.
So my pricing is, John mentioned earlier how upset he is when a client goes, "Oh, I thought it would be more." My pricing is this. I've had in my client roster both the second largest bank in Asia and a bunch of 2-person startups, and the price is the same. To me, the work I do is worth the value. I charge that much. And when I tell people, look, there's 7 of us in our team, right? You're getting a 7-person team parachuting in to launch your product. That does, like, you can hire for the duration of the guarantee I'm running. You can maybe hire 1 intern, 2 interns. Like, the difference between that and what you get when you bring in a team of experienced people, it really does help people open their eyes and be like, oh, fair enough. This might feel like a lot until I compare to what I have to price it to.
Exactly. And that's why, like, if ever labor comes up or that you're charging by hour or by, like, and sometimes by post, some social media managers do that. If you compare it to, hey, there's you have an editor, a copywriter, someone who's managing everything, someone who's coordinating with you, like that kind of supersedes, it doesn't matter how many hours they're doing because that price is worth, 5 people.
Yeah. And
suddenly it just becomes more. Sorry, continue, Jay.
Definitely. No, sorry, Laura. I think I was a little delayed on my end, but I want to kind of bring up a point where many times you pitch something to someone and they thought it was going to be more, and you can now automatically assume that they probably have allocated more of a budget towards something. This is called customer share of wallet. This is where you can upsell them on additional services that you may offer, or you can get referrals going to another agency, maybe something that you don't fulfill. There's still money to be made. There's still money that you can tap into. If you can build that trust with them and over deliver on the project that you've given to them, you can still make money with them. You can still tap into that extra budget. It doesn't mean that you can just never have the conversation again. I always encourage upsells and trying to get more hands in the pot because you'll make more money off of it.
That's an excellent point.
Great point. I still get upset.
Yeah, I get that, but I also think that it's good to be in a spot where the customer think you're cheap. It puts you in a comfortable position.
Not cheap. Inexpensive.
Affordable.
Man, such immediate negative feedback, Ophir.
I'll live with that. I mean, listen, you can always upsell and cross-sell, And you can also say, hey, and I forgot the appendix. That's another side of it. But again, the moment someone thinks of your services more than you quote it, it's a good position to be in. When you force someone into your pricing point, you always have to over deliver, and that puts a lot of stress. I've been in that spot. I mean, to me, the reason to go performance is there's no argument about the pricing, because the client has a clear understanding of the value he's getting, and it's worth it for me, so I don't care. And please, John.
I want to double down on this, because there's a way to establish a relationship buyer. I'll give you a perfect example actually with Ophir here. So I had a project recently where it was beyond me, and I needed some help, and I tag teamed in Ophir, and I tell you what, because I've known him for a while, because we've worked on some stuff, because we've had many conversations. Hey, that's my dog Lucy, by the way. Didn't even know she was in here. It's a good dog. I greenlit the project before he had even given me a quote. In fact, I think finished it before, and then they finished it, and it was done before he even sent me a bill, because we both had this understanding that I knew automatically I was going to get the value that I was expecting, and he knew that he could go ahead and start, because the moment he sent me a bill, I would pay it. And I'll say that it's possible. So I want to talk about using that sort of concept with Jacob. Because he had mentioned upsells, I think, and look, it's a wonderful way, but you got to be careful when you're upselling, because if you upsell into products or services that you're not great at, then you run the risk of losing the revenue that you are great at. So make sure that when you're ready for that upsell process, do not under deliver on an upsell, or it's not uncommon for us we start with SEO, we'll add Google ads, or we start with Google ads and then we'll add SEO. We have Google ads, we have SEO, we'll do email marketing, right? I love revenue growth with clients, because we can have that sort of what I had with Ophir. Like, we go to them. It's also not uncommon for us to do it for a month and say, hey, look, I genuinely think that SEO is a great idea for you. I have done this for a few clients where we do it for free for a month, just to get them excited about it, just to show them, or same thing. I think my favorite service to do that for is if they'll let us email marketing, because if they have a good enough list, and I can see it and just be like, oh man, like by tweaking 3 flows and segmenting their list, instead of sending an email out to everybody, let's build a list of 10,000 actual active readers, and let's email that, and they're going to watch their open rate pop, and I can probably do this in 30 days and then secure the business. There's a small amount of risk for me in terms of the cost that it will take, but the upside is pretty significant, right? And I have a good expectation that if I do a really good job on an upsell service, that the client is probably going to reciprocate. But again, you can have a relationship where price is not the issue anymore, and that's a great place to be in. And it's does not happen overnight. It's absolutely doable. Ophir and I knew each other for well over a year before we got to that point, but it's very doable. And I think that you should have sort of, try to move towards that place with your customers where, they express something and it's an easy, hey, we can help you with that. Great. Do it.
And I think you're also talking about how, even though it might have taken you like an hour or two to fix those email marketing things, like that's how you can sell your knowledge, because they didn't know how to do that before. Oh, exactly. Suddenly their open rate skyrocketed. Well, even if it took you an hour, like it's worth for that. Yep. Exactly.
So it totally different for Trevor, because he does project all at once, all there. That works for me though, because I do services and then it's monthly recurring, right? So every month, and agency owners, I don't think there's a right way. There's a what works for you and what works for your customers. That's the right way.
Yep.
Yeah, I do think. Sorry,
not everyone at once. Go ahead, Trevor.
I'm not saying everybody should follow my model. I am saying you should be distinct and different. It is really hard as an agency to just be like, hey, what do I do? I mean, fundamentally, I buy Facebook ads and Google ads, right? Which, if you're just one of those, you can maybe do $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month per client, right? work like heck, hire junior people who are learning their skills but aren't necessarily mastered at it yet, give them the work, and hope not too many clients churn. That's the performance agency model. But I've taken buying those ads and used them to do something completely different. And so I'm able to charge a different price because I'm not doing the same kind of sweatshop lead gen kind of machine that some agencies find themselves falling into.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just jump into this and say I have accounts in advertising that pays more than 20,000 per marketing channel management a month, and performance based. And there was months when we didn't get any compensation, but it just getting to that sweet spot that Jon mentioned about trust. Because if I'm as a business owner, and you're all founders, and I'm sure you're going to relate to it, if I know this guy cares about my business and I can trust him, that knowing worth a lot of money for me as a business owner. Just that knowing that I know, no, he's not gonna play games with me. He's not gonna try and overcharge me. He want to make money and he want to grow my business. Once I know that, it's just so comfortable to be with this type of providers, and I work with this type of provider. And I'm trying to be one, and this is, I think, where all agency owners should aim for. And please, we have 4 minutes left, so I'd appreciate every closing remarks you have, guys.
I just think the bottom
I'll start
line
off
is
with
work
mine.
with good
I know-
people. That's it. That's all I said. Just work with good people, because in the end, that's what's going to get you to grow.
I love that. I'll go off of mine and kind of to Jon's point, saying that you know, when you build up that trust, then pricing isn't going to be an objection anymore. And I agree. Pricing is always an objection when the value is not behind the number that you're giving them. And so when you can provide more value than the number that you're presenting to them, it'll never be a concern. So focus on value as opposed to negotiating off of a number.
I don't know of a good
Period.
way. Whoop, am I back? I don't know of a good way to grow a business to scale it other than focus on growth instead of labor. If you're selling hours, you are in a bad spot. Find the right way to sell your value instead of your hours, and you'll be able to decouple your work from your hours. If I were to make an hourly rate for me, it would come to something like $500 an hour. No client will pay that, but they will pay for the result of the work I do. And that's what's important to them. So you need to figure out the same thing for you, whomever may be listening.
Some great closing thoughts. I just, just have fun. That ties in with charge the right amount, because then you'll enjoy working. Find people you like working with, because then you'll enjoy working. It's not always fun, don't be wrong. And there are emails that will break your heart. There are phone calls that you don't want to be a part of. But be willing to do the hard things today so that you can enjoy tomorrow a little bit more, and make sure it is, if you're hating it, you got to change something and reach out. Look, this is a great community. This is a great group. There's a lot of wonderful expertise here. No one's alone in this. How do I, have an agency world? Like, there's plenty of people here to help you. Just ask questions, have a little fun. I think that's the way to do it.
Jon, I got to say, every time you speak, I'm just grateful to have you around. So
You too, buddy. Thanks.
I want to say thanks for everybody coming over. Laura, Trevor, Jacob, Jon, appreciate your time. I appreciate your input, and it was really fun for me. Next week, there's going to be the members roundtable with Frostlin, and in 2 weeks, we're going to get back to agency training on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Looking forward to see you, and have a great rest of your day. Cheers.